Welcome to the orchard. It's Saturday the 6th of May 2023 and I just thought I'd give you a short walkthrough and show you a few of the trees that are currently in bloom and tell you a little bit about the history of the site. Just looking ahead up there, you'll see a row of crab apples. I shall introduce you to those personally later on. They're beautiful. As we walk through here, you'll see there are rather a lot of trees. In 2012, this was a grass field. In February of 2013, we started to plant. And here we have the result. About 260 trees, the vast majority of which are apple. And the balance of the apple trees are cider, culinary, and dessert apples. The culinary and dessert apples have been chosen for their cider making qualities, although we do now tend to put them into juice. But of the varieties in total, we're looking at something in the region of 45-46 varieties of tree, and the main varieties that we use for processing into cider and juices are grouped into sets of trees, for want of a better expression, just to make it easy to keep a catalogue. In other words, very little random planting. I'll talk about the varieties of apple that we've got in the orchard in due course, but let's just carry on having a walk around and I'll explain to you what our ambitions and goals were with this piece of land. It's uncultivated pasture. Biodiversity on this is improving as a consequence of how we manage it. The trees undoubtedly have added to that, bringing in a huge variety of insects and birds. But most importantly, our goal here really is to provide a refuge for wildlife. And that also includes the plants that support that wildlife. And over the last 10 years or so, our regime has been to allow the grass to grow, and indeed come back to this very point in July, August, and you'll be up to knees in grass. We cut it, we bale it, we remove it. That hay is sold. It effectively pays for the diesel that's required to take it off the land, and then we're back to grass. As you look around, you'll see that many of the tree varieties are now in bloom and hopefully will produce us the crop that we aim for later in the year. Let's have a walk up this row of trees and I'll just show you a few of the varieties. On the left here, and I'll take you across to it, this is a variety called Tremlets Bitter. It's a bitter-sweet variety of cider apple, and notably it is prone to what is called biennialism. And this is a tendency of a tree, particularly fruit trees, to flower one year and set fruit, and then the following year to have a rest. So these two trees that we're walking past at the moment, as you can see, plenty of blossom on them and hopefully a good set. But the next one, this particular tree, which is also Tremlets Bitter, flowered and set fruit in 2022, but no sign of blossom whatsoever. So this tree is resting, and next year, like the one behind it, also Tremlets Bitter, it will blossom, set fruit, and we'll have a crop. Over on and towards the right, we've got a variety called, let me just remember what this is called. This is Fairmaid of Devon. This is a bitter sharp variety, a vintage variety. Bitter sharp referring to the fact that it's quite acidic, opposite to what you'd say is a bitter sweet variety. And a prolific producer of fruit. Look at the blossom on this, absolutely beautiful. And being a member of the rose family, I should add that they have most of these trees have a very, very, very faint smell of rose. So when you get a warm, humid day, it's absolutely beautiful. We take a little stroll along this other row. On the left hand side, Discovery, beautiful early eating apple, and on the right hand side a variety of apple called Ribston Pippin. Ribston Pippin is a late eating apple, very good solid apple as I would call it, but a beautiful taste. And we'll just have a little look at the blooms here. Absolutely gorgeous. And I can't emphasize that even though it's a pretty gloomy day today, the humidity is high and the smell from these trees is quite wonderful. Discovery here in bloom. In actual fact, coming towards the end, it's an early bloom, hence the reason it's an early eating apple. This apple will be available to eat. It will come into focus, there we go. This apple will be available to eat at the end of August, early September. But by sharp contrast, the Ribston Pippin here on the right will not be at its best until possibly October time. It'll sit that long on the tree. Never does though. We'll take it off for juice. And here we are in the cooking apples. This is Bountiful, let me introduce you. I like this apple. Very generous when it comes to bearing fruit. Very typical blossom, and let's just have a smell, see if there's any scent. No, vague. Probably not warm enough, not humid enough. To the left hand side we have Norfolk Beefing. And a Norfolk Beefing is, if you're old school like me, is the old-fashioned apple that was baked. About the size of a rugby ball. No, I'm exaggerating. But a large, firm apple that holds itself well through the winter. As we proceed along here, we're approaching Monarch in full bloom on the left. And Monarch, in my view, is the best cooking apple. Yep, I've said it, committed myself, the best cooking apple. On the right, Reverend Wilkes, a biennial bearing plant, and produces large green fruit very early on and available. Let me just take a scent. Oh, that's nice, that smells nice. And usually available for picking in September. One of its problems is that it tends to overfruit, and the big fruit tend to break branches. So if you're planning on growing Reverend Wilkes, do be warned. Monarch is very forgiving. You just need to make sure that you keep the trees in good shape. No long, lanky branches so the bits can break off. Yes, I speak with experience. Been there, done that one. And here we have Reverend Wilkes again. There's 5 of these, and they'll produce somewhere in the region of 20, 30 kilos of fruit. Good quality fruit, that is. The rest goes for juice. This poor battered beast here was a overgrown Lord Derby. I had to take some dramatic action this winter to make sure that it didn't actually collapse under the weight of fruit. Good cooking apple. Breaks down to a mush. Doesn't keep its shape, unfortunately.